Yeah.
I'm here with Kat and Kim of Hoaxed to talk about the debut record, Two Shadows, coming out October 28th on Relapse Records. How are you guys doing?
Feeling
Great.
good.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
an
doing
absolute
great.
pleasure to have you guys on the channel. I was lucky enough, I consider myself lucky enough to see you guys during the Amorphous tour when you played in Toronto. I didn't know who you were, but now I do, and that's because of that show. I was blown away by the performance of both of you, but of everybody on stage, I should say. But both of you really knocked my socks off. It was absolutely incredible. How many people after that tour or after the shows came to you guys and said, like, where have you been all my life? Like, how
Not many. I mean,
We have few, but it's just it's so great to hear it. So yeah, thank you for saying that.
yeah. We'd have a few people come up, but you know that it's I think we're slowly burning. Starting to catch fire.
Yeah, you guys were incredible. The only thing I regret about that show was not picking up some merch from you guys, but I'll do that. I promise I'll do that next time you guys are in town. All right, I'll double up on the purchase. I'll buy double just to make it up.
Well, if I wasn't blurred, I'm like sitting. This is all the merch behind me, so we've got plenty.
All right, perfect. I'll pick up a vinyl and I'll pick up a T-shirt. I want to make sure I support you guys next time you guys are in town. But let's talk about this record. Or actually, before we talk about the record, let's talk about a little bit about the band. What was the spark that got the band going, that got you guys excited about making music together?
Sure.
I mean, like, I think the spark is our previous band that we were in, disbanded. Yeah, disbanded. And
it could have been dismembered. I don't know
what we're into. Yeah.
Yeah, I might be giving away too much. But yeah, our previous band disbanded, and we realized we still wanted to keep playing music. We wanted to keep writing. And so we sort of got together and we're like, okay, if we want to keep writing music, what kind of music do we want to write? Do we want to go in a completely different direction? What kind of sound do we like? And so we actually, for the first time, really sat down and we're like, this is the music we want to play. This is what we want it to sound like. You know, this is where we want to explore. And yeah, it just kind of came together that way. So we'd already been playing together. It was just when it came down to the two of us, it just became, I think, a lot more purposeful.
So how did the album then start to take shape for you guys? When did the process started, and how was the process to get from that beginning to where it is now, just a few days away from being released?
Sure. We started writing this album about a year ago. I think we were starting to already write on it. We were in the studio recording our EP when we were already writing some of these songs for the full-length album. So yeah, it's been over a year in process, but we were actually in the studio was that a year ago? I think that was last November through January that we were actually in the studio.
Yep.
So yeah, we've been working on it like for almost a year now. So it's fantastic to finally have it almost out and people can actually hear it. But the way we started writing it was just, I mean, Kim and I, the way we write all of our music is we jam together and we just land on some sounds that we like, and they inevitably become songs every time. It's always kind of a surprise when we get to the finish line and we've got a full album full of songs. It's like, how do we write these?
Yeah.
So when you guys are jamming and you guys are being creative about your music and what you're trying to achieve, is the creative part the spark that really drives you and where you want to go, or you also are looking at discovering yourselves as artists and what you can do within that discovery? Which portion weighs the biggest?
I think it's both. I think that, you know, sometimes I'll have a beat that I think is really like funky, or I'm trying to work on stuff and focus on different parts of the drum kit. And so we'll jam on that, but then Kat will play a riff and I'll be like, oh, I really like that. I don't think this drum part is the right part for that, but let's start working off of that. And then I start writing drums, and then that will in turn, like, you know, inspire Kat to switch up her guitar riff just to accent a certain hit I'm doing. So it really is just kind of a waterfall of different inspirations bouncing off of each other and just being like, I think that's sick. Keep doing that. On like, just going from there until it becomes a song. And sometimes we do that, we get to the end, we're like, cool, I don't like that song.
We've definitely killed some songs or like harvested them for other songs and that
exactly. Yeah, like, okay, I don't like how the song turned out as a whole, but I do like that riff, or I like that transition or something like that. And so we'll be like, okay, we'll keep that in mind for next time, like when we're writing a song. And so maybe we'll pull something out that was from 3 songs ago and be like, perfect, this gets us from the, verse to the chorus. Awesome, glad we remembered that transition. But
Kim and I have been playing music together for over 10 years, so we're past the point of embarrassment. Like either be like, hey, what do you think about this? We're both like, yeah, I love it, or no, I'm not. Like we don't really have an ego around each other when we write music, which makes writing together really fun and a lot easier than past experiences I've had writing music with people.
For sure. Yeah.
So who's the voice of reason when you get to one of those tough moments?
I think we both are. I think like it's something that like if we get to the end of a song and one of us is just like, do you like this song? And it's like, no. It's like, I knew it. We both knew it.
Yeah.
We both knew that this wasn't going to cut it. Like, and so I think it's not only being honest and like expressing how you feel, and then like in turn being okay with having honesty expressed to you and being like appreciative of that, and also not lying to yourself. Like if there's something going on, like let's say I write a synth part and it's too much, like it's over the top, like, or it's drowning out some other part, I have to not be like, I love that synth part, it's great, it sounds amazing. I have to actually be like, no, does it do the song justice? Is this actually too much or overbearing? Is it drowning out the sparkle of the other parts in the song? Yes, like cut it.
I like the way you guys think. It's about serving the songs, not about serving yourselves and how you feel towards whatever it is that you brought into the table. So during this process, I don't want to call it challenges, let's call it mistakes. Was there some mistakes that you guys have done that now you can look back and perhaps use them as a springboard to better yourselves in on a future record? Or do you rely a lot on the experiences of the past to make this album work from the get-go?
It's a great question. I think, so our experience with releasing the EP was we had no idea how anyone would receive this album. Like Kim and I just made this over quarantine. We really liked the 4 songs. It's music we wanted to make. And then we just kind of like released it into the world, like unsure how anyone would accept it. And then when Relapse came calling, we were like, oh, that's a great sign that it's okay. And what we're doing is fine. So I think going into this album, like we had a lot more confidence when we went in, but we also know that like what we did the first time was just what we wanted to do and people liked it. So we can keep doing that now. And we don't like, there's no agenda that we have to hit. It's just kind of whatever we like seems to be working. So I think in that way, like, yeah, we were a lot more confident when we went into this album. So we're pulling from that lesson from the past, but yeah.
Yeah. And, I think a lot of times we try to give ourselves time and space to write and record and make sure that it's the most like we're getting every single thing that we want to achieve. We're getting it, like we're fitting it into that amount of time. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes when you have no deadline, the work ends up filling that space.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to have a balance between making sure that there isn't something like a little treat that we wanted to stick into this one song, and then we're like, oh, we forgot to do that bit, or we forgot to do that part because we were rushing through the recording process trying to get it out by a certain date, versus laying back and being like, well, we can figure it out, we've got time, and just making it go on longer and longer and longer. And then sometimes you can overproduce that way too, and just be like, I want to add this and I want to add that and I want to add that. And you think about it for way too long, and suddenly you're like, it's just a garbled mess. But that, fortunately, I think we did strike a balance on this one, learning from not just the EP, but previous recordings that we've done together too. We've been recording for a while. So I think it's nice to be able to take those mistakes where, we're trying to do 12 songs in a weekend.
It's not gonna work. No,
not gonna work out the way you want. You're not going to get everything you want. So it's I think this was I think the most positive and successful recording process we've ever done.
Yeah, I agree with that. Just from like the sounds we were able to achieve to like how it all went and like the time we got to spend in the studio, like we had a bunch of goals and we hit them all, and it was just, we had a really good time recording this album. It was really fun.
You mentioned having a song and then at the end not liking the product and going back and kind of, you know, working your magic and taking the pieces that you do like. So does that get frustrating at times? Because you do have a vision for what you want the song to be. You did create the song that you had your vision for, but then turns out that the final product maybe didn't match the vision that you had to begin with. So is that a frustrating process to go through?
Honestly, I would say it's not frustrating picking it apart, because I know that the pieces that I'm salvaging from that project are ones that I'm going to be really excited to use later. So the idea of taking I don't feel like it was a waste of time or unsuccessful, because we did find all of these pieces that are really cool. And maybe we'll never use them, but I know that I still wrote a badass, you know, drum fill or a badass beat. I don't feel bad about that.
Yeah, there's definitely nothing to feel bad about that. Now, you guys know how much of a fan of the drums I am, so I'm not gonna go into the weeds on that. But I want to ask you guys this: having seen you guys live and then listening to the album, to me was undeniable the connection between how you guys put together your set list for your live show and how the album design came together, feeling pretty much like a set list, very organic. Is that something that enhances the atmosphere and the essence of your music to have an album have that same sort of design?
Yeah, I liked that you picked up on that when you gave your review of the album, because we definitely went into this as like an idea of the opening intro of Two Shadows is like when the curtain rises, and then each song is a vignette. And so we didn't necessarily write the album with that in mind, but once we got a few songs in, we were like, this definitely feels like it's a collection of stories. It's not like, you know, we're not making like a rock opera or anything like that. It's not one story throughout. It's more of like a collection of cautionary tales is what we like to say. And so, yeah, it was definitely something we had in mind. We are, our favorite thing to do is play music live. So we are always conscious of how it will sound live. I mean, the studio is great. Multi-track recording allows us to be a two-person band. We love it, but it's also really important to us how it's going to sound live. And, you know, we would never put anything on the album that we couldn't actually play live. And that's important to us.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because we did spend a lot of time thinking about the order of the song, and, you know, putting in our headphones. Like I know I was walking around the neighborhood and listening to the songs over and over. What if this one comes after that one? This one is like hours. And at a certain point, I kind of feel like, I think there was a Hard Times article that was like, local band argues for half an hour over set list that no one else gives a shit about. it's like, am I thinking too much about this? But it is so like, I don't want people to be hit over the head with those intros that, like, you know, we put in like little kind of theatrical starts to the song, like an introduction. We were very purposeful about, like, we don't want to have 5 of those in a row, because it's gonna, like, people are gonna start catching on and being like, okay, every single song starts the same. We wanted it to do a nice flow, have like certain songs, the end flows into the next part, and you're like, okay, like that sounds really cool, we got to have that couplet. So yeah, it was a process of figuring out exactly how to tell the story, kind of like a puzzle piece, and that's fun too.
So you got great drum sound, you got a great guitar sound. Who's driving and who's shotgun?
We're both smashed in the driver's seat together.
Yeah.
That was one thing when we started this. Like, Kim and I have been playing music for over 10 years together. We've been in a bunch of different bands. We've had like many different roles in those bands, whether it was like forward or back. And with this band, we were both like, this is exactly what we both want to do. We both want to be in control. And it's been working out really, really well. We have a really unified vision. It turns out we weren't really sure when we started. And so far it's been, like pretty much every decision we're like, this is the answer, right? And we both agree. So with writing music, it's been the same thing. I mean, like Kim was saying earlier, when we don't like a song, we both don't like it. We just feel that way. And there's been like very little things, even on the album, that one of us had to like convince the other one. We both just immediately felt like those were the right things to do.
Yeah. And I think that like using the driving metaphor, when we were on tour recently, a lot of people were asking, oh, is there one person who just wants to drive all the time? It's like, hell no. Is there one person who doesn't want to drive all the time? Hell no. Like we are very good about, like, if we're getting overwhelmed or if we're, you know, not in a good space of being like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, being able to share the responsibility, share the work ethic, like, you know, share the research, and at the same time share the space in the songs too, like share the recording space, like being able to give each other room to take the wheel, to shine, and to have their own, you know, part. I think, like we were saying earlier, it doesn't just do each other justice, it does the song justice, because nobody wants to, like, well, some people are, you know, but nobody wants to listen to a song that's just entirely drums all the way through. You get nothing but drums. Like, nobody wants to hear that. Like, and we found that it's a lot more heavier and like, it's a lot, you know, heavier when you have the drums a little bit more forward than in the back. So it's a good give and take, and I think that we're good at passing it back and forth.
Yeah. One of the things listening to the album, and even when I listen to you guys live, is that I was like, I love this music, I love this sound, I love this experience, but what is it? And when I was doing my review, I was like, okay, because I always define the band for people who are watching the review and they may not heard of the band. People always want to put a category. I don't know why. It's not important to me, but it's important to others, and therefore I try to offer that to them. And when I was doing the review for you guys, is like, okay, what do I call this? Like, so do you guys have, you know, an umbrella that you fall under?
Yeah, I do like what you said, where I think you said it was heavy rock.
Yeah, heavy rock.
Yeah,
that's what I called it.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. We also say dark rock.
Dark rock is good too.
Yeah. We know there's like a lot of, for better or worse, gatekeeping in genres, especially in metal. You know, people hold their genres pretty precious for understandable reasons. So it's especially hard to categorize your own music. And we get that comment a lot, that people don't know what we fall under, how we should categorize it. But yeah, we find that dark rock works pretty well. We just have so many influences that even for us, it's kind of hard to figure out what we think it sounds like.
Yeah. And I think especially since we're so close to Halloween, everybody's sort of like attaching it to goth, because they're like, oh, they kind of have like these goth little bits and pieces in there, and it's Halloween, and this is like really cool. They're gonna have a Halloween release, and we're like, yeah, like it's kind of, you know, there's some stuff in there, but I wouldn't say we're a goth band. But yeah,
I wouldn't hate it if we were.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. Exactly, amongst friends.
Yeah.
I have one last question for you guys, and I feel like maybe you guys can shed some light into this. I mean, there's some incredible music coming out of Portland these days. I mean, Unto Others, you guys. I mean, the list goes on and on. Is there something in the water there? Are you guys becoming the Seattle of the 2020s? This new movement is not grunge, but for whatever this new movement is, what's in the water there?
I don't know.
We could bottle it. I mean, there's something about Portland where it's like spooky, and there's like, you know, I mean, the atmosphere here just like encourages this kind of like music and lifestyle. So I think you're onto something, but what it is specifically, I have no idea. We're like kind of shocked by it too.
Yeah, I think honestly, what's really cool about the Portland scene is that it's flourishing without being overwhelmingly huge. Like there's a really tight-knit community, and there's like a good punk scene, a good like doom scene, a good, you know, heavy metal scene, like traditional heavy metal, like, but there's a lot of overlap too, because it's, you know, not a huge scene. There aren't enough people to have your own silos of those different metal genres. So a lot of times the person who you'll see at the punk show is also going to be at the black metal show, is also going to be at the, traditional heavy metal show. So I think being able to float around to all of those different scenes and go to all of those shows, hang out with your friends, have beers, and let the music kind of soak into you, like it definitely helps. It can do nothing but help the more music you see.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah,
you guys are definitely becoming a melting pot. I think 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the way they're doing documentaries now about the grunge scene, they're going to be doing documentaries about Portland and the music that's coming out of there these days, and you guys will be on it for sure. So I want to thank you very much for your time, and I hope to see you guys in Toronto soon, because I didn't get enough last time you guys were here. You completely blew me away. Incredible band. I wish you guys nothing but the best with this release. One of those outstanding albums, one of those outstanding debut records of 2022. So thank you very much to both of you for joining me today for this chat.
Thank you.
This has been great.
Good to
Take
see
care,
you.
guys. All the best. Bye.
Bye.